there's always this like thing inside me that is like, no, like you're supposed to like share this, like this is going to reach someone. And I have to just kind of dig into that knowing and trust that as long as I listen to that voice and not the doubting voice, then I feel like equipped to keep going.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast. Here's your host, Paul Carganilla.
Hello and welcome to COVE, the podcast in which we aim to entertain and inspire you with a variety of elements and offerings, including music, storytelling, interviews, and more. Quick note, if you'd like to not just listen to, but watch the episode, you can find it on our YouTube channel at covetube.com. That's COVETUBE.com. In this episode, I am thrilled to introduce and actually meet virtually for the first time author Sarah Barkoff, who worked with my wife Jamie when they were children. They both played young Cosette in the Les Miserables Broadway tour a couple decades ago, but they've kept in touch, and we're thrilled to have her as a guest and to hear her read the first chapter of her latest book, Emmy Gold is Totally Extraordinary, hot off the press from publisher Chicken House Press. But before we jump into the interview, I thought it would be fun to do a song with my daughter Everly. Hi, Everly. When Mommy and Sarah played young Cosette, they were your age, and we thought it would be fun and neat to open up the episode with a little young Cosette from Les Mis song, her song Castle in the Cloud. You want to do it?
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's Everly Carganilla with Castle on a Cloud.
She says, Cosette, I love you very much. I know a place where no one's lost. I know a place where no one cries. Crying at all is not allowed. Not in my castle.
Ladies and gentlemen, Everly Carganilla, thank you so much, baby. Love you. Thank you. And now, without further ado, let's meet our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming from the future, she's joining us from the East Coast, Sarah Barkoff. Welcome.
Oh.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being here. This is so exciting for me.
Now, our connection goes way back because you did a show with my wife.
Yes.
How old were you at the time?
So we were about 9. I think it was between like when we were 9 and 11. Yeah.
And one of our regular listeners actually sent me a photo about 10 minutes ago of a program that he still has. When he saw.
Oh my God.
And he had Jamie sign the program a long time ago.
That's amazing.
And there you are right there as
That's so funny. That is so funny. Wow. It's so
So
funny.
while this is your first time on the Vaudacity Network on a production here, you are well interwoven into the rich history of performers here on the network. So we're so
Yeah,
happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
And one thing that I know you are super excited about is this awesome thing that we do, which is tell us everything anybody could possibly know about you in 60
Okay,
seconds or less. You want me to count you in?
sure.
Here we go. And three, two.
All right. So I started acting when I was 5. The first show that I ever did was a community theater production of Annie, where I played Molly. I feel like every kid who their first show is always Annie, especially like a child of the 80s and 90s, right? By age 7, I landed a horror movie called Hellmaster. Don't be jealous. It earned 3.8 stars on IMDb. To be honest, I'm surprised that it earned that many stars because it's pretty bad. But it starred John Saxon, who is kind of like a horror movie icon. So at the time, my agent told my mom and dad that it was like a great opportunity for me. I earned my SAG card from doing that movie. But the one stipulation was she told my mom and dad, like, let her do it, but she can't kill anyone in it. Like that would be really, really bad. So, my parents read the screenplay, all was well, filmed the movie. And on the very last day of production, I could hear, I still remember it. I was 7 years old, all the little whisperings and, it just, the movie wasn't coming together the way that the director wanted it to. So the screenwriter kind of swooped in, rewrote the scenes. It was like 3 a.m. because I don't know, back then, like they let kids like be filming at 3 a.m. Yeah, that stuff happened. It would never like happen today, but rewrote the scene. And I actually did kill the bad guy at the end. So I injected him with like poisonous venom into his veins. And so that's like kind of the closing scene. So that was that. My agent wasn't super thrilled. Then age 9, I landed Les Mis. That's when I worked with Jamie and toured the United States, did that for a couple of years, did a few shows after that. Then I decided that I wanted to be kind of normal. So I went back to Michigan, where I'm from. And that was kind of like how the idea of Emmy Gold was originally, born from. Did that, kind of did the normal thing, had the normal high school experience, which I'm really glad that I was able to do. But by 18, I kind of was itching to get back to New York. So 18, I moved back to New York. I went to AMDA, the American Musical Dramatic Academy, followed by the New School, which is where I earned my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And the first like real writing piece that I ever did was actually a screenplay while I was at the New School. And it was called Child Actress. And it's kind of like a much darker, like super sinister. It's nothing like Emmy Gold, but at the time I thought like it was going to get made into a big movie. And I'm still like, I thought I was going to win like best original screenplay. So that didn't happen. Haven't won an Oscar. I like to say yet, but honestly, I still think it would be a really good movie if it ever saw the light of day or got into the right hands. So then I wrote The Wanderers, which was my first published book. I'm really proud of that book. It took me many years to write that book. And then after that, shortly after, during COVID, like many artists, I just, was sitting home feeling a little bit stuck. And that's when I started writing Emmy Gold. I had just read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which is like, so, it's out of the genre of like what I would normally read. And it just left me really inspired and thinking that like, I wanted to kind of take the same message, which is like to cut all the other stuff out and be yourself. And I wanted to make it like accessible for kids, like in a way that kids would understand. So, I worked on that book for a couple of years and now here we are. So I hope I didn't go on too long.
That was a perfect, just under 5 minutes. But we learned so much, and a lot of this show is talking about, your creative journey, how you started, how you got to where you're going, and
Okay.
the lessons learned all along the way. So a lot of that was really, really great information. And do you mind sharing, like, what state are you living in? Where are you working from?
Yes. So right now I'm living in Florida. I was in New York for the better part of like my adult life. And then we were in Cleveland for 1 year for my husband. And now we're in Florida. We've been here about 3 years. My husband and my 2 kids, my lovely children, loves of my life.
They're about the same age as my kids, so it was really fun to hear about Emmy Gold and read about it. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but I just want to rewind it to where you, just listening to your story, where you made the decision to stop stop with the Broadway and go back to high school. And
Yes.
a lot of that is thematically in your book, Emmy Gold. But
It is.
what was that like?
Well, the decision at the time, there was a distinct time I remember where I just absolutely loved like everything to do with being on stage and, or being in front of the camera. And, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's really, I think I explain it better in the book, but something inside of me just changed. And I had this like really, really strong desire to just experience normal. And, I do remember at times when I was a kid just thinking, geez, like, I think I just kind of want to be normal. Like, I think that might make me really happy. And luckily, my parents were really, really supportive of that. And we're always saying, like, if you ever don't want to do it, like, you don't have to do it, then you can always go back to it. So it made it really easy for me to kind of like leave it behind. But then when I wanted to go back to it, they were equally as supportive to me. So when I went back to school, it wasn't as extreme, obviously, as it is in the book, but it was awkward and people did treat me different and everybody didn't really know how to react to me. And so I try to just incorporate what I was feeling at that time. But I feel very fortunate because I think that while a lot of other like child actors go through times of struggles sometimes, I am very fortunate I didn't. I just kind of streamlined back into regular life and streamlined back into my other life. And I feel really lucky for that.
And as your parents said, Broadway will always be there.
Right.
Did you find that to be a case? Did you ever have you mentioned you moved back to New York and tried it again?
Yes. At 18, I went back and I made an attempt, I would say. I put myself out there, but it was just a different experience as a like young adult, and I just found that, the stuff that I thought that I missed, I didn't really miss it anymore. And I think I had to experience it that second time. There were definitely like opportunities. I think the one opportunity I'm like, oh, maybe I should have done that. I was offered a job in like the show 42nd Street in like Moscow. And, I just decided I didn't want to do it. It just was like really far. And it just didn't really come together, I guess, for me, like as a young adult. I was expecting it to be something else and it changed. There were so many close calls, like with big jobs, and it did break my heart, I think. It was really, just different, as benign as a word that is. It just, it was really different and I was really different. And I guess I didn't realize how it would make me feel. But, I am proud of myself because at an older age, I was able to kind of be like, okay, well, I don't have to do this and I don't want to do this. And I've found other ways to kind of exercise my artistic abilities. And, that's always going to be inside me. And I think it's just that as long as I have these ways that I'm able to like share my art and share myself, I feel really happy with that, not necessarily putting myself through like anxiety ridden situations anymore. So yeah, that's how it's different now. And at 40 years old, I can reflect on back on those times and, feel a little bit wistful, but also, you know, meet it with like a feeling of gratefulness really for the life experiences that I have. And I really feel like Emmy Gold is like my way of celebrating that. It's kind of funny, not to go off on a tangent, but some of the friends that I've met like in my adult life who didn't necessarily know me when I was a kid, they're like, now that this book has come out, they're like, I didn't know that about you. And like, it's so I think I spent many years kind of like hiding that side of me because maybe I was afraid like people might ask or like, why don't you do this? Or but I'm done with that. Like I'm done hiding. I want to celebrate it. And I think it's really cool. And not everybody has like that type of life experience to talk about. And so yeah, so I'm just like I'm in an era of my life where I'm just kind of celebrating like who I am and where I've been.
You have a creative heart, and whether it's performing on stage, singing, dancing, you felt drawn to express yourself and your creativity in other ways, and you got your BFA, you said, in creative writing. How did
Right.
that happen? What led to that?
Well, I had started off at AMDA, which is a 2-year conservatory. I would say after AMDA for a few years, just kind of floundering. I worked as a hairstylist in New York City, which I did really well with that. But it just, and it did like get those creative juices flowing. But I found that I don't talk about this very much, but I found that like, working in New York City and like the celebrities and stuff would come in or I would work on jobs like on photo shoots and I would just be like, like, I don't want to be like the person behind the scenes. Like, that's not really like I realized then, that was another aha moment. Like, that's not really me, while I love the creative aspect of it, it wasn't enough. And I just felt this like incredible need to share like more of myself, more of what was like going on in my head. And actually, my husband randomly decided to go to medical school and we moved to Grenada for a couple of years. And while I was there, that was when I decided to go back and finish my Bachelor of Fine Arts. And it was really while I was there that I started writing, and I started this blog that isn't, it's not like up anymore, but it just was so well received. And I had so many people just being like, you're such a good writer. Like, I love your stories. And I was like, wow, maybe that's like how I'm meant to share myself. Maybe that's how I'm supposed to like maybe that's what was missing. And maybe there's this deeper thing that like I want to share with the world. And that was how, started writing the screenplay, and I wrote a couple of books. And that was kind of like how that Bachelor of Fine Arts came to be.
And what was the road like on the way to your first book, The Wanderers?
It was a long one, to be honest. It wasn't my first book. I actually had written this other book that, I just, like many things, I just was like, I'm going to write a book. And everybody in my life was kind of like, you're going to write a book? Like, that's really hard to do. And I was like, I'm just going to do it, and like, and I did it. Like I did it with, I learned everything that I could possibly know about it. And, I studied the craft and I'm still proud of that book. And to be honest, like I had so much interest on that first book. It was like the first thing I ever really like wrote. And I came really close to having that book published, but ultimately I just don't think that I was ready yet. So then I wrote The Wanderers. I had just had my son. So it took me a really long time to write that. And that book is it's a lot different than Emmy Gold. I would say it's like upper young adult. So like, it would be appropriate for ages like 17 to, I would say 17 to 25-year-olds would probably read that book. I wrote like probably 4 or 5 drafts of that. I had a harder time getting interest in that book because I think like so many things, it's not enough to just like write a good book. You have to hit the market right. And we were just coming off of like Gone Girl and like that whole like not Girl Interrupted, but Gone Girl and that whole like era of, the damaged, like dark female protagonist. And I was just like about a year too late, for that one to really take off. Everybody's like, I love this book. Like the agents and the publishers that I sent it to, they're like, I really love this book. It's just like, it's not the right time for this book. Like you're just a little late with it. But eventually someone did like love it enough. Actually, several people loved it enough. It's funny how that happens. One person loves it and then suddenly 10 people want it, So that was how that came to be. And then, after that, I was like, gosh, do I have the courage to like write another book? Because it's such a long process. The book world is a really like, if you think the acting world is like insane, like the book world is even more insane and more, it's so competitive.
I can imagine. Was there ever any experiences? What I'm obviously being an actor and being in that whole world, you have to be okay with rejection, with hearing no,
Oh, yeah.
and with
Yeah.
hearing that your work isn't good enough or isn't
So,
right or now is not the time. Is
so the crazy thing about the book world versus the acting world is like, you can always say like, with acting, it's like, okay, well, I'm too short, or, you can tell yourself whatever story you need to hear to make yourself feel better about why you didn't land a part. But like when it's like a book, it's so different. It's like so personal. And it's not like, there's just another audition around the bend. It's like I spent 3 years, like blood, sweat, and tears, like writing this, like for you, like for anyone who might love it. And so it's so much more personal. So those rejections hit like so much harder. And it's really like you really have to love it to keep going, because it's not for the faint of heart. I really do believe that.
how do you get through it? How do you bounce back after that rejection?
I don't know. I keep, there's always this like thing inside me that is like, no, like you're supposed to like share this, like this is going to reach someone. And I have to just kind of dig into that knowing and trust that as long as I listen to that voice and not the doubting voice, then I feel like equipped to keep going.
It's that fire burning inside, and it's strong enough to break through, and even the no amount of no's can put it out. And
Right.
it is so inspirational to me to hear any creator talk about how, just like, I've heard so many people said it wasn't good enough, said I wasn't right for it, but I had to keep creating, and I believed in
Right.
this idea, this work so much that I just kept going. And it takes so much bravery, and it's such a vulnerable feeling putting your creative work out into the world and putting it in front of eyes that are literally there to judge it and to tell
Exactly.
you that it's not good enough, but to still have a strong enough fire to keep going.
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy all the time. I mean, as you know, and as anyone who creates, anyone who creates knows that vulnerable place that just putting yourself out there, like, are people going to like it? Is it even worth putting out there? And, is it going to reach anyone? And you have to just trust and hope that it does.
Love it.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about Emmy Gold. And we're going to hear Sarah, the author of the book, read the first chapter in a moment. But the whole reason we're having this conversation really is that Sarah, in the lead up to publishing it, reached out to Jamie and said, "Hey, I'd love for Everly to read this. And if she likes it, give me a quote we can throw on the cover." And that is super cool that she did. Uh,
Yeah.
Everly gave it a read. And Everly, tell us what you thought about it.
I think that all boys and girls should read it because it's telling you, like, some people can be who you don't expect them to be, or that they can seem rude and they actually turn out to be your friend later on. And I just think, like, it has a good example of, like, finding out that, like, what you want to do is what you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to do something just because you have a mom who wants you to do it.
Right.
You should do what your heart wants to do.
You were so smart. Oh my gosh. I love you.
I'm going to read the back cover, and then she'll read her quote that's on the back cover, and then
Okay.
we'll jump into the reading. Emmy Gold wants to be ordinary, but it's hard when everything about her is so extra. Growing up on television and starring on the most popular sitcom has made her a household name, but it's left her longing for a no-pressure life in the New Jersey burbs. When she's fired from her role on Helping Hannah, everyone expects her to land another lead part, but Emmy's got her bags packed to leave New York City for good. Fitting back into the real world will be easy, right? Not so much when Emmy's got a momager who spends most days plotting her comeback, and the queen of Patterson Middle School who has an epic plan to destroy her. Luckily, BFF Jasmine is there for backup, but will all the pressure of reality prove as complicated as the spotlight and send Emmy back to NYC?
Bum, bum, bum.
And Everly's quote is on the top of the back of the cover here, and you want to just go ahead and read it word for word?
I think everyone should read this book. Girls, boys, young people, and grown-ups too. Every time I started a new chapter, I had butterflies in my stomach and my heart pounded in a good way. I loved it.
Oh, I love that so much.
It's the best.
Oh, it's just, it's so amazing to hear, honestly.
And who is the book? What is the targeted audience for?
Yeah, so the targeted audience is considered middle grade, but most kids read above reading level. So, I would say anywhere from ages 8 to 14 would be interested in this book.
Awesome.
Yeah, I read it when I was 8. I have a hard time with some words, but that's because I'm not in fourth grade yet. I'm going into fourth grade. But
Yes, no, you captured exactly what I was when you were describing it. It was so perfect, and it was exactly what when I was writing it, what I wanted the readers of this book to feel like and to understand about it. You totally got it. You said it perfectly. Wow.
thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have the pleasure of having the author of Emmy Gold is Totally Extraordinary here on the podcast, willing and ready to share with us chapter 1.
Okay, let's do it. So Emmy Gold is Totally Extraordinary. Chapter 1. Kind of a big deal. Psst. Basically, if you want to know the truth, my entire life has been nothing more than one big fat lie. When you're an actress, well, ex-actress in my case, nothing you see is actual reality. This blemish-free skin, That's just good lighting and super strategic makeup applied by a professional. This confident, pearly smile? Yeah, those are porcelain veneers mom insisted on because she didn't want me to have a mouthful of braces and miss out on roles. My resume isn't any different. Here's a peek. Name, Emmy Gold. Age, 13. Eyes, sapphire blue. Hair, warm chestnut brown. Height, 4'10". Weight, 100 pounds. Special talents include singing, pop, musical theater, country, opera, rap, legit, yodeler. Dancing, tap, jazz, ballet, hip hop, basically a ballroom prodigy. Instruments, flute, violin, harp, piano, guitar, clarinet, serious drum skills. Other noteworthy talents include slaying at the jump rope, champion of the hula hoop, somersaults, back handsprings, toe touches, can do a killer British accent, splits, no-handed backflips, and many, many more. Just ask. Spoiler alert, if you hadn't yet guessed, it was all hoopla, and I mean every last bit of it. Mom's the one who penned this bamboozle list of deceit. She's got a knack for stretching the truth and making everyone believe anything she says. Seriously, once when I was 4, she told my agent I could read when I couldn't. There I stood, wobbly legs, with a heavy script in my hands as a room full of casting directors waited for me to start reading my lines. I didn't know what else to do, so I started talking about unicorns and rainbows. They were dazzled, thought I was adorable, and needless to say, I got the part. Mom was thrilled and greeted me with a wink as I emerged from the casting room. It was probably her plan all along. If anyone's wondering, my real resume should have read something more like this. Name, Emmy Gold. Age, 13. Eyes, boring slate gray. Hair, mousy brown. Height, 4'10". But depends on my shoes, to be honest. Weight, no comment. Weighing yourself is so archaic. Am I right? Special talents include absolutely and positively nothing. Seriously, I wasn't even good at remembering my lines when I started on Helping Hannah. And it's the reason I was fired, by the way. The producers got fed up with me flubbing lines during live tapings, but what no one knows is I did it on purpose. Okay, maybe that sounds a little psycho, but let's just say I had a very good reason to. As soon as I started outgrowing the cute pigtail kid I was when filming began and into someone who needs a bra, I know, so embarrassing, right? The show's writers didn't know what to do with me anymore. Slowly, they cut my lines down so much that I was barely a part of the show. It felt weird being somewhere I didn't belong, and I had no choice but to take measures into my own hands. So when the casting director yelled action and clapped the little snappy board, I chew on the inside of my cheek, pretend not to know what to say. After a few months, I got the axe. It's all good though. I'm absolutely thrilled to get away from the spotlight because now I can finally breathe. And you know what? I don't miss it at all. Not one bit. Actually, that's a lie. I totally miss the green room and the endless supply of buttery croissants, licorice, and decaf lattes. The only person who's not thrilled about me getting fired is Mom. Also, she doesn't know anything about Operation Get Yourself Fired, so let's keep that under wraps, okay? We have to because Mom's a little crazy. Not totally off her rocker, but she's definitely got a couple of screws loose, you know? She's what most people would refer to as a stage mother, but actually she prefers momager because it has more of a modern flair to it, but you get the point. She always wanted to be famous herself. To be honest, it's kind of surprising she never was. She's gorgeous and tall and has a gleaming white smile and does this super dramatic laugh where she flips her head back while she cackles. I guess she probably never made it as an actress because she got married and had us kids soon after. But that didn't mean her movie star ambitions were ever far from her mind. For example, she named me and my brothers Emmy, Oscar, and Tony after the annual entertainment award shows in television, film, and Broadway. See, I told you she was a little kooky. Believe me now? I'm Emmy, by the way. Hi. My older brother, Oscar, has zero interest in anything involving glitz and glamour or the flashing of cameras. And my baby brother, Tony, is, well, a baby. So all he really does is mush food around and babble baby nonsense. That leaves me for Mom to live out her dreams through. It's September now, a few months since I've been back in the New Jersey burbs, and a couple of weeks since I've been back at school. I grab my book bag and hop out of Mom's car. The leaves crunch beneath my teal suede high tops as I walk up to the doors of Patterson Middle School. Maybe you're wondering about what it's like coming back to school as a famous kid. Let's just say my reputation precedes me. More than a few times I've been asked to take a selfie with some of the school staff. Awkward. But to be honest, all the kids here seem a little afraid to talk to me. Like these two girls who are huddled nearby and chatting as I make my way down the hall today. They're in mid-conversation, but when the one with the waist-length brown hair spots me, she elbows her friend and narrows her eyes in my direction. I stare straight ahead and pretend not to notice. I wish I could say that this isn't something that happens a lot, but that would be a lie. It's weird. I wish they understood that I'm just Emmy, a regular kid like them, and not the actress who used to be on their television screens every Friday night. The only one who truly gets me is Jasmine. Every morning, she greets me at my locker with an air kiss to the cheek. Toodles, she says when she sees me. You look cute. Jasmine is my best friend forever, or more correctly, my friend of about 60-ish days. I met her at the open house before school started, and we clicked right away. She cracked a sarcastic joke about me looking exactly like the girl from Helping Hannah, and I complimented her outfit. We spent the rest of the time chatting and have been inseparable ever since. Our friendship totally makes sense, too. Jasmine has ties to the entertainment industry, so she gets me on a different level than most people. Her mom is a backup dancer for Beyonce, and her grandma used to perform with Diana Ross back in the day. You should lose that giant cardigan, she advises, checking me out head to toe. It's like 70 degrees out, and you look like you're about to go out into a blizzard. At least tie it around your waist or something. Jasmine helps me take it off and arranges it around my belly, fussing with it until it looks cool. There, she says, pleased with her work. She's always giving me fashion advice, even if I don't ask for it. She wants to be a fashion designer one day. I was sort of going for a grungy, chic look, I tell her, untying the fancy knot and slipping it back on the regular way. It's my thing. She smacks her sparkly lip gloss mouth together, rolls her big brown eyes, and says, You do you. But I think you're just trying to cover up the fact that you have the biggest boobs in the 8th grade. I do not, I protest, slinking my shoulders in and arranging my long brown hair over my chest. Jasmine has no idea that this is a sensitive subject for me. I know she doesn't mean anything by it, but my ever-changing body is something I've been struggling with for a while. Sometimes it seems like from one day to the next, I wake up and everything is somehow bigger, different, and not in a good way. Back when I was working, I begged the costume designer on set to let me wear tunics or wrap a scarf around my neck because it was the only thing that I felt comfortable in. Don't worry, no one else can tell, she says. Your concealment efforts are top notch. Jasmine winks, clicking her tongue. I wish I had some tatas. She looks down at her chest. Do you think they're growing? I thought maybe they were finally starting to grow the other day, but now they just kind of look the same. What do you think? Totally growing, I lie, slamming my locker shut. We make our way down the crowded hall to class. I glance down at my chest. Do I really have the biggest? I start to ask. Hey, Emmy, are you going to Cassidy's party this Friday? A gruff voice asks. Taylor Jennings struts over to us. His hair swishes across his forehead, and he flicks it out of his eyes. The tiny freckles across his nose and cheekbones are enough to make my heart beat faster. Taylor Jennings. Doesn't his name alone scream that he's a total cutie? Oh, gosh, did I mention he's got the most swoon-worthy dimples ever? Not sure, I stammer. Haven't been invited yet, but that would be sweet. I'll put in a good word. He juts his chin out, half smiling. See ya, he says, backwards jogging away from us before he turns the corner. Jasmine's mouth drops open. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, do you even realize what just happened? She asks, squeezing my shoulders. Taylor Jennings just spoke to you, and not only that, he just asked if you're going to a party that he's going to. I know. I think I died, I squeal. Like, I'm pretty sure that I just died. Am I alive? Am I breathing? He's the cutest boy in the entire school, and he just talked to me. Everything is coming together, Jazz. Okay. I don't want to get too excited. What if I don't get invited to Cassidy's party? That would totally suck. Don't start spiraling, she advises, shaking me a little and looking straight into my eyes. You must slow your roll. I nod. But I want to go so badly. Me too. Cassidy has the most epic birthday parties. Her parents are super rich and they go all out. I heard this year she's having it at a trampoline park, and supposedly they light the whole place up in neon lights while you jump around. My heart thumps beneath my heavy sweater as I place my hand over my chest. So cool. I know, right? She says, but I've never been invited to one of her parties. Cassidy is super selective about who she invites. She has secret meetings with her best friend, Sloan Anderson, and they go through the whole yearbook and cross out anyone who isn't cool enough. That's the rumor anyway. Getting invited to one of her parties is like the biggest deal ever, she tells me. Well, we have to find a way to score some invitations, I say. Well, you'll for sure get invited, she says. I mean, you're famous, duh. Me, on the other hand, that's up for debate. I'm not sure Cassidy even knows my name. That's not the problem. Everyone knows who Jasmine is. They just don't get her or her style choices. She's an artist, a free spirit, floating through the halls in her floor-length flowered print dress with graffiti-painted combat boots and a cropped jean jacket, all of which she found and repurposed from the Salvation Army. Personally, I think she's the future of fashion, but others tend to stare and sometimes giggle at her in the hallways. Wouldn't it be so amazing if we both get invited? This is more exciting than the time I was invited to the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, but I couldn't go because I got mono. I say, no, you're kidding. That stinks, she says. Totally serious, but it's fine. I would have probably just gotten slimed and caught pneumonia or something like that. The first bell rings, snapping us back into reality. Shoot, I've got to go. Got Jim, she says, but we'll discuss later, okay? I need to go. Swimming today. We both grimace and make gagging noises. I know, right? My hair is going to totally get ruined. Blah, I love you, she shouts as she shuts down the hall. See you at lunch, I call after her. Still giddy, I try not to skip as I flit and float my way over to language arts with Mrs. Ferris. I reach the door and realize I forgot my book in my locker. Oh, no, not again, I grumble. Mrs. Ferris stands in the doorway, her heavy black bangs flopped over her forehead, skimming her red-rimmed reading glasses. Joining us today? Joining us this morning, Miss Gold, she asks. Yeah, for sure, I answer, but I forgot my book. Can I go back and grab it really quick? Hurry up, Miss Gold, she warns, and pivots on one foot, shutting the classroom door with a thud. I power walk down the hall to my locker. When I arrive, I turn the combination to the right, to the left, to the right again, but it doesn't click open. These are the types of things that are still taking some getting used to since being back in the real world. Most kids my age have been using these contraptions for years, but this is all new to me. I breathe and start over, my lips mouthing the numbers as I try again. It clicks open. Hooray, I say, opening the locker and grabbing my book. Something falls from the top shelf and onto the floor in front of me, touching my high tops. I bend down to pick it up. It's a piece of paper, and I unfold it. My heart stops, hoping it's a birthday invitation to Cassidy's party, but it isn't, not even close. Instead, it's an article about me that's been ripped from a women's magazine, and on it, someone has scribbled a message across my face with a black Sharpie. My pits perspire as the hair on the back of my neck stands up. I know Mrs. Ferris is going to give me a hard time if I don't hurry, but I can't help it. I'm too stunned to move. I crumple the piece of paper and stuff it into my book bag. For a moment, not seeing it makes me feel better, but not for long. A worry keeps creeping back in, a realization, and I can't shake it. Maybe they all know my secret, I think. Maybe this ordinary life isn't as simple as I thought it would be.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Sarah Barkoff.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful, and I can't wait to find out. I can't wait to find out because I don't have the book, but I do. But so many people, I'm sure, at home can't wait to find out what happens next. Kelsey in the live chat says, so good, definitely ordering this book. And thank
Oh.
you so much for sharing that with us. I want to have so many more conversations with you about just like your creative process. Like as a writer, I'd love to just pick your brain. Before we say goodnight, I just want to ask you one thing. The main question at the front of my head when you were writing is like, how was it difficult to put yourself as a writer back in that life, like that life of being in school and the drama and the, or did it just, was it an easy, like, did you just get right back there in your head as you sat down to write, or was it kind of like a journey to get back into that time frame or that frame of mind?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I mean, I hear a lot of people my age like, saying this, but like I feel like middle school and high school was like that. Like it was not hard at all for me to get back into that. Like the minute I sat down to write this book, it's like I was just there. I was in it. I remember like everything about middle school and high school and the drama and just like the social circles and the just all the little ins and outs of things. I've always been like such an observer and I feel like I'm a very sensitive person. So I just notice everything and therefore I remember everything. So it was kind of fun, though I would say now being at the age I'm at, just kind of like laughing about it. At the time, it's so all consuming and depressing even at times. But now I just got to take the fun parts and know how it's going to end and just kind of enjoy it while I was writing it, really.
I think about that all the time, how like I thoroughly enjoyed my high school experience.
Yeah, me too.
But if I had the chance to go back and do it again, I
Yeah.
would have enjoyed it a lot more, like without all of
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
added
without all
effort.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what this book is. It's like a celebration of like getting rid of all the ugly parts that you don't like and just kind of enjoying the fun aspect to it and having the ability to be on the outside looking in. What a better place, what a better spot to be than in it because I wouldn't want to go back, I don't think.
But you're using your creative license to put yourself back there and create your own world in that frame.
Right.
I love that. If anybody like Emily or Kelsey in the chat wants to find your book, where can they find it?
They can find it anywhere where books are sold. You should be able to find it. Amazon is the easiest. That's what I personally think. It's available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover.
And if anybody wants to keep up with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is either on my Twitter or which is my name, Sarah Barkoff, or my Instagram feed. And I also have an email that I created for anyone who wants to chat with me about writing or the book. And it's just sarahbarkoffwrites@gmail.com.
That's awesome. I know we've got a couple of writers in the chat right now that are working on their own stuff, like Dari and Krista. So they might be doing that.
Yeah, I love hearing from other like creators. I really do.
And I loved hearing your story about, keeping that flame lit and bouncing back and having the perseverance and the resiliency to keep going when you knew you had that creative message and something important to share inside you and just kept at it and powered through.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
We appreciate you. And I hope to have you back on the show again in the future.
Oh, I'd love to come back on. This is so much fun. Thank you.
Such an awesome conversation with Sarah. Sarah, thank you again for being our guest, and we hope to have you back someday. I wanted to close out the episode, a little bookend, a little Les Miserables bookend, with a song that this was the first song I sang like as a solo live when we started doing the live Polly's online variety show musical reviews. We did during COVID, our first musical review live through Zoom on YouTube was Les Mis, and I performed this song to a karaoke track. It was before I started playing guitar, and I'd love to perform it here at the end of this episode. This is Stars. There, out in the darkness, a fugitive running, fallen from God, fallen from grace. God be my witness, I never shall yield till we come face to face, till we come face to face. He knows his way in the dark, but mine is the way of the Lord. Those who follow the path of the righteous shall have their reward. And if they fall as Lucifer fell, the flame, the sword, stars in your multitudes, scarce to be counted, filling the darkness with order and light. You are the sentinels, silent and sure, keeping watch in the night, keeping watch in the night. You know your place in the sky, you hold your course and your aim, and each in your season returns and returns, and is always the same. And if you fall as Lucifer fell, you fall in flame. And so it must be, and so it is written on the doorway to paradise. Those who falter and those who fall must pay the price. Lord, let me find him, that I may see him safe behind bars. I will never rest till then. This I swear, this I swear by the stars. With this episode, COVE Podcast is officially 1 month old. I'd like to thank our COVE Patreon curators for supporting us from the start. Josepha Snyder, Susan Kuhn, Meryl Milkey, Gina Dobbs, Anna Gianavola, Angelica Bolschweiler, Kelsey Blaine Gibson, Krista King, The Farrens, and Emily Thatcher. Many, many thanks to the 11 of you for laying an amazing foundation for this show to launch and grow. Just one of the many fun perks of being a Patreon curator is not only the recognition right here in the video credits, but monthly shout outs on the audio podcast as well. And you can learn more about that and check out all the tiers and patron perks at patreon.com/COVEpodcast. If you love the podcast but Patreon isn't your thing, you can still help the show grow by leaving a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform and or leaving comments on the YouTube videos. Every little bit helps, and we thank you so much for listening and all the ways you support the show. Everything you do is greatly appreciated. Love you all.
I put the coat on her.